You know, growing a big, beautiful garden doesn't have to mean breaking your back or spending a fortune. In fact, the Amish have been doing it for generations, growing more food with less work. And they keep it pretty simple. No fancy gadgets, no chemicals, just good old-fashioned tricks that actually work. So today, I want to share 5 of their best gardening secrets with you. These are easy things you can start using right in your own backyard. Things like turning banana peels into plant food or keeping weeds away without spending hours pulling them out. And trust me, by the time we get to number 5, you'll see how a little change can bring your whole garden buzzing to life. So, let's jump in. Banana peels and coffee grounds. Let's start with something simple and honestly kind of brilliant. You know those banana peels and used coffee grounds we usually toss in the trash? Well, the Amish put them to work in the garden, and it makes a world of difference. Banana peels are packed with potassium, which plants absolutely love. It helps them grow stronger stems, bigger fruits, and healthier roots. And coffee grounds? They're loaded with nitrogen, another thing plants need to really thrive. Together, they're like a natural fertilizer. No chemicals, no store-bought stuff, just kitchen scraps doing their thing. Now, you don't have to overthink this. Just chop up your banana peels into smaller pieces. That way they break down faster, and sprinkle them around your plants. You can bury them lightly under the soil or even mix them into your compost pile. Same with the coffee grounds. Don't dump a huge pile all at once because too much can make the soil a little too acidic. But a light sprinkle here and there? Perfect. And here's a little bonus tip. Used coffee grounds also help keep pests like slugs and snails away. So while your plants are soaking up the nutrients, those little critters are staying clear. It's a win-win. The best part is, this method costs you nothing. You're just recycling what you already have in your kitchen. And that's exactly the kind of practical, no-waste thinking the Amish have mastered over the years. Simple, effective, and easy enough for anyone to try. Lasagna composting. All right, let's move on to trick number 2. And don't worry, we're not actually growing lasagna here. It's called lasagna composting because, just like the dish, you're layering things up. Only instead of noodles and cheese, you're using things like leaves, grass clippings, kitchen scraps, and straw. And when all those layers break down, you end up with rich, dark soil that plants go crazy for. The Amish love this method because it saves time and effort. There's no tilling, no heavy digging. Just let nature do the work. Here's how it goes. You start by laying down a layer of cardboard or newspaper right on top of your grass or soil. This helps smother weeds and keeps them from poking through. Then you start building your layers. One layer of brown materials, like dried leaves, straw, or even shredded paper, followed by a layer of green materials, like grass clippings, vegetable scraps, or coffee grounds. And then you just keep repeating brown, green, until you've built up a nice thick stack. Over time, all those layers break down and turn into rich, fluffy soil that's full of nutrients. And the beauty of this method? You don't have to wait a whole year to start planting. In fact, you can plant right into the top layers while everything underneath is still decomposing. Plus, lasagna composting helps hold on to moisture, so you end up watering less. And because you're not disturbing the soil, you're protecting all those beneficial microbes and earthworms that help keep your garden healthy. It's a lazy gardener's dream, really, and I mean that in the best way. Less digging, fewer weeds, and soil so rich your plants will practically thank you. This is the kind of old-school wisdom that makes gardening feel easy and rewarding, not like a chore. Raised rows or beds. Now here's a classic Amish trick that makes gardening not only easier, but way more productive. Raised rows or raised beds. And no, you don't have to build fancy wooden frames or spend a ton of money. The Amish often just shape the soil itself into long, raised mounds, and it works like magic. Why raise your rows? Well, first off, it helps with drainage. When it rains, the extra water doesn't sit around drowning your plants. It drains off, leaving your roots happy and healthy. And on the flip side, during dry spells, the soil in raised beds tends to hold just the right amount of moisture, so your plants don't go thirsty. Another big win? Raised rows warm up faster in the spring. That means you can plant a little earlier and get a head start on the growing season. For folks living in places with shorter summers, this is a game changer. And let's not forget about weeds. Because you're building and maintaining these rows, you have better control over the soil, which makes it easier to keep weeds in check. Less bending, less pulling, less backache, and that's something every gardener can appreciate. If you want to try this, start simple. Mark out your rows about 2 to 3 feet wide and use a shovel or rake to pull the soil up into a mound about 6 to 12 inches high. Leave walking paths between rows so you're not compacting the soil where your plants are trying to grow. It's that easy. No fancy lumber, no complicated construction, just shaping the earth to work for you the way the Amish have done for ages. And once you start gardening this way, you'll wonder why you didn't do it sooner. Deep mulching. All right, trick number 4 is one of my personal favorites. And when I say deep, I mean really piling it on thick, just like the Amish do. This is one of their secret weapons for growing more food with less weeding, less watering, and less overall fuss. So, what's the deal with mulch? Well, when you cover your garden soil with a thick layer of organic material, like straw, hay, leaves, or even grass clippings, you're basically creating a protective blanket for your plants. This blanket keeps the soil moist by reducing evaporation, which means you don't have to water as often. It also blocks sunlight from reaching weed seeds, so fewer weeds pop up, and as the mulch breaks down, it feeds the soil, making it richer and healthier over time. Now, the Amish take this to the next level by mulching deeply. We're talking 4 to 6 inches thick in some cases. It might feel like overkill at first, but trust me, the results speak for themselves. Your plants get steady moisture, weeds are smothered before they even have a chance, and your soil stays soft and crumbly instead of turning hard and cracked in the heat. One tip: if you're using straw or hay, make sure it's weed-free so you're not accidentally introducing more seeds into your garden. And if you're using leaves, it's a good idea to shred them first so they break down faster and don't mat together. Deep mulching is one of those things where the more you do it, the better your garden gets. Year after year, your soil improves, your plants grow stronger, and you find yourself spending less time battling weeds or lugging around the hose. It's simple, it's effective, and best of all, it lets nature do most of the work while you enjoy the harvest. And isn't that the dream? Heirloom seeds. Now let's talk about seeds, and not just any seeds. The Amish are big believers in using heirloom seeds. These are seeds that have been passed down from generation to generation, sometimes for over 100 years, carefully saved and replanted every season. Why does this matter? Well, heirloom plants tend to be stronger and more adapted to local conditions. Over time, they've learned to thrive in the soil, climate, and even the pests of their region. So instead of constantly battling disease or spraying chemicals, the Amish let nature build resilience into the plants themselves. Plus, heirloom vegetables just taste better. If you've ever bitten into an old-fashioned tomato or a crisp heirloom cucumber, you know what I mean? The flavor is richer, deeper, and nothing like the bland, store-bought stuff. And here's the best part. When you grow heirloom plants, you can save the seeds from your best fruits and use them again next year. No need to buy new packets every season. It's a beautiful cycle of self-sufficiency that fits perfectly with the Amish way of life. And honestly, it can work just as well for you, even in a small backyard garden.